Hello, besties. It's me, Weaver, your internet dad. This is just canonically, this is 4 days of stubble, so your boy can grow a beard when he wants to. Unfortunately, his job does not want him to grow a beard. This is unfortunate. I'm on leave right now. I'm taking a bit of a staycation. Doing a little course, which is virtual, which means I get to stay at home. I don't have to drive 2 hours a day, which is amazing. If you can get a remote job, do it. If you can create a remote job, even better. But what I want to talk to you about today. So, I did want to talk a little bit about the history of Railroad, why I recommend it, especially for people. And then I want to talk about what I'm doing next. Yeah. All right. So just like a little, I'm active on the Royal Road subreddit, and basically most of the Royal Road Discord servers, um, either people know me or they like their friends know me, right? Just an active social guy because I want to be active and social. Anyway, um, so I have been on Royal Road since, oh gosh, it's been like 2021 when I first did my romance, Bridgerton meets Redwall series, Red Mist, which is great. It's still there. First book's there. I kind of got writer's block. I put it down. Writer's block. I just didn't know where, I knew where I wanted to go, but then I was like, I'd spent so long, I'd have to go back and restart the whole thing. Um, that's on me. That was not meant to be a for publishing. Um, Honestly, the first couple books I wrote, written, Safer, The Badger Company, are not publishing. They're not all going to be edited. Um, Blood Rights and Blood Wrongs is Blood Rights and Wrongs is probably not going to be edited for publishing. I have to let it sit for like at least another month or two before I come back to it. Gamer Manager is because I like Gamer Manager. And in case you're wondering, my wife wore this for Halloween when she was pregnant with my daughter, who was born like in November. Halloween is in October, so she was a pumpkin. And I like to wear this when it's cold because it reminds me of nice family. Um, I didn't pick orange just because blue is more my color. Right? Anyway, so besties, why I recommend Royal Road is that there's kind of a community around it, and there is like a definitive pathway. If this is the kind of thing you like to read and write, right? So by volume, it's 16% sci-fi, and like the rest is kind of like a mix. People say it's like cultivate, it's like lit RPG, but it's really cultivation, lit RPG, progression fantasy, and then all that stuff that encompasses that, which includes sometimes sci-fi and like grimdark and all that stuff, right? So when people say, can this normal fantasy work on there? Yes. So usually, like authors, like a couple times a week, people will hop into the Royal Road subreddit. They won't have read any of the other stuff. They'll just be like, "Hey, can a fantasy work on this?" And then people will be like, "Yes, you can work on this. Is your cover good? Is your blurb good? Is the prose good? Great. People will read it." There's this thing that's called discoverability. It used to be a thing. I'm going to be doing a video about like the various social media platforms, but like basically, back when Twitter was in its heyday, and it actually worked, and it wasn't full of right-wing trolls, um, you could be discoverable there. You could like post your work and people like discover it. But let's put it this way: like I have a shelf full of books. I've read most of these books. Uh, some of them I recommend, some of them I've written, some of them I super recommend, some of them I've asked Kickstarter for, like Hiroshi, right? But like you're competing within a saturated market, right? So how do you differentiate yourself? You have to give it time, right? So people are like, oh, it's been so like the two things that I see most in Royal Road, and like I guess this is gonna be me talking to you guys is like it's been 2 days and are my stats good? And people are like, well, your stats are fine. Give it a month. Like basically me, I'm like, give it 6 months, post for 6 months consistently. That's gonna build you up as a author, as a writer, and that'll make you consistent, right? But then the flip side of that is that it's like, okay, your stats are trash because your blurb is trash. And like you can have a great cover, then people read the blurb, and if I get nothing from the blurb, I'm like, okay, maybe that's fine. I'm gonna give people. I'm more generous to people when I'm reading for fun, and so I'll give them like a half a chapter, maybe two chapters. Um, but if I'm in there and then the first thing I see is something that immediately takes me out, where they swap POVs every single paragraph, right? You can do. I've seen three people do this well. One of them is Actus, but like if you swap from first person to third person to first person to third person, even if it's the same character, like on and over, like you're giving people whiplash. People are not gonna be able to articulate that. They don't have the language to do that. They're just gonna not read your stuff. Um, and I don't know where this came from, right? And it's okay if you're one of the three people. I think one of the others is Bagel Man, where he's reading their stuff, and I'm just like, you get a pass. Everybody, like, if I don't notice it because it's so good, like, you get a pass. They were writing it was a fanfic, and I was like, this is great. Give me more of this. I didn't notice it. I don't care. Third, third person, first person doesn't really make a difference for me. Third person is a little bit easier to write to begin with. I've alternated between the two. However, however, present tense and past tense, I will die on this hill. If you write in present tense, there's a specific genre for that, right? Um, it is more like in the moment, right? Romantasy, uh, female led, like progression fantasy, like it's more present tense, right? Basically everything else I want past tense, third person type, right? What I do not want is present tense, first person, past tense, whatever. That's fine because you can fix that in editing, right? So like it's supposed to be an amateur. It's supposed to be an amateur thing where you get your beta readers, and that's part of the draw of it. Is that you have a community there of people that want to read stuff. They want to read it for free. They want to read your stuff. They'll give your stuff a chance, especially if you have 100 chapters or 1,000 pages, right? Because some people are just like they've gotten burned. And this is the other thing: like people have gotten burned because they started reading something and then someone quit it. I'm still mad about Tavern Cat. Right? I'm still mad. I wrote a 4-book series called Bodega Cat because Tavern Cat stopped posting. Tavern Cat had like 200,000 followers and like stopped like 10 chapters in, and it was like really really good. And I'm like, whoever that author is, like they caught fire with that, and then they quit. And I don't know what happened there, right? And I hope they keep. And I'm like, as soon as they pick back up with Tavern Cat, like that's the thing. But I've gotten burned because somebody stopped, right? And if you drop 20,000 words in the first like a couple of days, that shows me that you at least thought enough to write in advance. And then if you're releasing chapters every day, at least you've thought enough through to like have a backlog. And as a writer, I'm just like, I know how much that takes, especially for a newbie, um, especially for newbies that are going back and rewriting their stuff over and over and over again, right? I think what I'm going to title this is like gripes and advice for railroad authors, writers. So discoverability means that like people can find your fic, people can look at the cover, they can look at the blurb, they can start reading it, and then they can also be like, hey, what is this person recommending? A lot of times people do shout outs. I do a lot of shout outs where I'm like, okay, this person I know, they're writing something. I know they have the same kind of vibes I do, or at least they're not an asshole. I'm going to shout this stuff out. Here's a link to their stuff and mine. Go check it out. Um, and then like people, they'll check mine out, right? I get a lot of views from people who shout each other back, right? So it's not just like you get like a few minutes on the front page when you post, maybe 10, 15 minutes, depending on what time you post. Hopefully you want to post when there's lots of traffic, like when people are at work in the East Coast of the United States, because people go on railroad when they're supposed to be working. What happens? Um, where was I at? Discoverability means that like you can also get onto these lists like Rising Stars or like Best Ongoing, or you could be on like I'm still on Rising Stars for Chivalry. Like it's same book for the last gosh darn 6 months. I didn't make it to main, but I've been on one of these lists. So if you're like, I want to read a time looper story about a chivalrous knight, like you'll find me on those lists, the top 50 of those, right? And I'm just gonna hang out there, right? Because I didn't get any higher. but you're on lists. You can also like there's like the tags. So it used to be you didn't have like there's like not like a gay tag, LGBT like thing, and like now they have more tags about that. I'm not 100% in love with the tags, but you can like be like, hey, I want a male main character with magic, with fighting, with academy setting, with this, with that, right? You can like be filtering through the things you want. I want a mystery, and you as a reader can find that thing. Um, and you can like do that. I don't really, I think there's a deck builder tag. Yes, write more deck builders. Somebody's writing a deck builder, and I love it. Strawberry Rain, I love you. So people can use a tagging system to find that, and it can also kind of be a social media because you can post in the forum. You're not really getting the experience unless you do the forum. Well, you don't really do the forum. The forum's kind of a cesspit. If you're not doing this, the Reddit and or the Discord, you're kind of like missing out on the whole experience. Which is why my recommendation for Railroad writers is to just go on Discord and make friends, and don't just like show up to some place and drop your link and then leave. That's the way to get banned. That's the way to get no interaction. It's because like I don't know who you are. I don't care about you. And if you don't have a link in your bio for me to check your stuff, I'm not going to go check it on my own. And I'm not going to check it if I don't talk to you a little bit. At least that's me. And if I like your stuff, then I'll recommend it. And that's kind of how book marketing is. Like, if I see something and have a following, I will say, go read that thing. The thing I want you to read has not been released yet because the writer's going to write like all 900,000 words of it, then release it at once, right? So that happens. And I'm sure they'll be fine because the writing is like peak, right? So Amazon has a thing called also bots. Worldwood has something similar. So like also read. So like people will see my story and then they'll be like, okay, people that like this story also read these 3 stories, right? And so my goal is to like have talk to those people and spread the love with those people. Just be like, hey, our fans like each other. Let's cross promote. And sometimes you get something. Sometimes people don't want to do that. Um, People are a little more suspicious of review swaps now. I don't do review swaps now. I'll just review something I like. Lots of reviews. I think I have like 80. Probably need to do some more. Where was I going with this? But the reason you do it is because there's kind of not really a near peer, right? Fiction Night's coming up. There's some other one that I'm looking at evaluating that's got R.C. Joshua on it. Then there's web novel, right? So Royal Road, you can kind of bring your own stuff as long as it meets the guidelines. The smut has to be not that much by volume, and like you can do whatever you want there, because you like the way they make money is they sell ads to authors, right? And since there's millions of people that go there, they can sell ads that could be a profitable company, right? Or they should be a profitable company. But if you go to web novel, some people are getting paid, so you kind of have to like they have to promote you, and they have these predatory contracts where they'll take over your IP after you like whatever, and if you want to sue them, it's like in don't quote me on this, but like Hong Kong court or something like that. Now I don't know the full details. I've ever posted a web novel. I don't tend to. I was on Novelizing before it crashed. I'm going to be on Fiction Night very soon for my next story. When Launchpalooza launches in like a month. But like that's the thing. It's like there's like a shelling point, right? And a shelling point is like if you hey, what's the point where I find fantasy, epic fantasy, lit RPG progression? It's Royal Road, right? And even though people want like an alternative, the alternative is like, well, do you want romance? Like if you don't create the thing, right? And that's why I like Fiction Night. It's like there is an alternative to Royal Road, but if small is growing, and this is not an Fiction Night, I'm not sponsored by them. In fact, I'm going to pay for ads for them. Um, there should be an alternative. The alternative is kind of going to be determined by what gets posted there. And since Fiction Night's like anti-AI is part of it, like that's going to be part of it, right? That's going to be part of the discussion. Like, okay, so Royal Road allows AI generated content, although it's not going to get read as well. And there's some concerns about bots, but like I'm not really concerned about bots. It's like, if anything, like bots scraping your stuff to upload whatever, that's a good sign. If you pirated, that's a good sign. That means you're doing well. You're not going to make money off of pirates, right? Sail the seven seas, right? What you are going to do is like it's going to generate a bust, and then people really want to support you, they will buy your book, right? So like if I like in this example, let's say that I pirated somebody's stuff and I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to go back and support the author. I'm going to buy the book and I'm going to tell my friends, right? That's kind of how that works. Can you imagine like getting a review from like somebody who's a pirate and then the pirate's like, you should read this book. I didn't pay for it, but you should. I can imagine that. I don't pirate stuff. I just buy it, right? Um, the book is $4, right? When I went and bought all of Victor Tucson, it was like $70, right? It was $70 for me to just listen to all that. Like $7, right? Because I got credits. But like the author is probably making 40% of that. So like Plum Parrot, I just gave you $40, right? By buying all your stuff, right? Whatever that is. It's not that much. Um, if you can't afford that, that's one thing. But like also, I could have paid for Kindle Unlimited, which I do for my wife, and I could have just read through it that way. I like the audio thing because I like to listen to stuff on my runs and on my when I'm working out. But like, I don't have time to sit down and click through that. I am getting a new e-reader though this week, so maybe you'll have a review. But anyway, um, and I guess in closing, this is my rambling vlog about like advice for new railroad authors and like why you should consider like, hey, this is probably the place for you to start, right? Because it allows you to grow a following, which is something you can't really do anywhere else. Like you could post on like Scribble Hub, but then you kind of have to direct your own traffic, right? So on Railroad, you can kind of get some traffic organically. Other places, it's more difficult. I'm gonna do like in the comments, like tell me. I'm gonna do a social media for writers in 2026 thing. I want to do like a roundtable with me and some of my friends talk about it. And then like announcement is like later on, 17 minutes in this, trying to bring Readers of the Lost Ark or here to improve, where we do people's stuff live and help them improve. Either going to be this channel or pop-ups channel, probably this channel once I figure it out. Because I got to figure this shit out. Um, have a good time, and I want you guys to enjoy the laughs that we have. So have a great day, besties. Put in work. That's all you gotta do. Put in the work and post.